As you guys might have heard, Leon Edwards and Jorge Masvidal has been scrapped. Jorge Masvidal was pulled out injured. I think we're still sort of on initial details of that one. I don't know all the details of the situation, but it clears up a way for what I believe to be a very interesting fight between Leon Edwards and Khamzat Chimaev. And I'll tell you why I think this is interesting. So Khamzat Chimaev is running his mouth consistently. He's talking about how he's going to run through everyone and all this. And you know what? He might be right. His last fight, he looked very, very impressive. He fought a guy that was just outside the top 10 and he annihilated him and talked shit whilst he did it. Annihilated him quickly. So I actually think Chimaev's a very challenging fight for Leon Edwards. And I think there's a very good possibility he beats Leon Edwards. You've got to look at it in the sense that the only wrestler that Leon Edwards has faced that can be compared is Kamaru Usman, and he was beaten by decision because he was repeatedly taken down and controlled. But on the other side of that, I think it's actually a really good opportunity for Leon Edwards to prove that his wrestling has improved to a level where he could actually compete with Kamaru Usman. Like, I think if it is Chimaev that steps up, and I think, I would love to see Leon Edwards fight Chimaev. I'd love to see him fight Luque. But, even if he waits for a title shot, I wouldn't really have a problem with that either. But I think Chimaev is the most interesting fight. And the reason why is because it will tell us where both of them are at. I think we can probably see from that fight whether or not either of them stand a chance against Usman. Because ultimately Chimaev is unproven. He's not fought anyone of the level of Leon Edwards, certainly not fought anyone of the striking background that Leon Edwards has got. So I think you've got to look at it in that particular way, because Chimaev's a wrestler, Edwards is a striker, but Chimaev obviously has knockout power as well. So I think it's going to be interesting to see whether or not Leon Edwards can neutralise that wrestling of Chimaev. And if he can't, then Chimaev's kind of a shoo-in for the next title shot. If Chimaev managed to take Edwards down and submit him like he's doing to everyone else, like if he does that to him, you can no longer argue that he's the next guy to face Usman. Edwards is on an 8 or 9 fight win streak. If Chimaev just absolutely dominates him, ragdolls him, submits him in the first round, like, what better way than to cement a title shot? And it would appear that if that happens, he'd be a massive threat to Usman. So I think that is a very interesting development that Masvidal's dropped out of that fight, and I think this is almost a better fight for the division, because I think we can see whether or not these two fighters are equipped. So I think that should be the fight. Like, as I've said, Luque versus Edwards would be a striking battle, and that would be really interesting as well. But it should be Chimaev versus Edwards. It's got to happen. I think that's the fight that we need to make, because I'm sick of hearing the hype about Chimaev. I want to see him against someone that's actually going to prove it. This does that. And I'm also curious, because I'm English. I want Leon Edwards to win that title. I really, really do. I would love Leon Edwards to go and beat Kamaru Usman, and I think this is a way of, I think if he's able to neutralise Chimaev's wrestling and potentially score a knockout or decision victory there, I think that would change his chances against Usman in my eyes, because we know that Chimaev's got that sort of Dagestani Khabib type wrestling. He does that tripod thing with the legs, he's got the wrist control, he kind of just he keeps his head above the opponents, he stops the opponent from moving, they can't get him off. Like, he's got that same sort of control. So if Leon Edwards can neutralise that, then I think you've got to say he's got a better chance against Usman than everyone's giving him. Like, he's got a very legitimate chance, because his striking's only got better. And you think that he must be working on his wrestling because of the amount of good wrestlers that are at the top of this division at the moment. So Edwards versus Chimaev has got to happen. The UFC has to make it happen, because this is how we see who the most likely person to beat Usman really is. Because I think the winner of this fight is that guy, if they make that fight. But please make that fight. Dana White, make that motherfucking fight. Edwards versus Chimaev, it's got to happen. Got to happen. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Let me know what you think of this potential fight. I think it's got to happen. I don't think there's any other option for the UFC here. They've got to put Chimaev in with Edwards. They've got to do it. Thanks for listening as always. I'll see you next time.